I am talking about technology today, which kind of, if those of you realize that we've been having some issues with technology, but there is some technology talk in what we're talking about. So I'm going to keep on talking like it's normal. If you can hear me, well, I know you can hear me. It just depends on the level you're hearing me at. If you feel like you need to move forward, that's fine, but you probably won't need to. Okay. Does it sound okay still? Okay, we're good. All right, so many of you have people in your lives, or maybe it's even you, or your spouse, who will say, back when I was young, this was harder. Like, oh, we had to walk uphill both directions to school, or, you know, certain things. How many of you think of somebody in your life who you remember, it might have been a grandparent when you were younger, that used to tell you how much tougher it was back when they were growing up. Anybody have that in oh, it was so much harder. It was so much harder. But then there's also the flip part, and this is what takes place now, is you have people that say, back in the whenever, it was so much better. So much better. Now that's a wide-ranging sentence, but some of you are thinking right now, people, maybe you, oh, 20, 30 years ago, it was so much better. My thing to you today, and I didn't have a title. This is another funny part. I think Rovik texted me this morning because I hadn't turned in a title, and he asked me, I think it was Rovik. If it wasn't Rovik, whoever it was that texted me this morning and asked me, because it was a number I don't have in my phone as someone's name, said, what do you want the title to be? And I said, adapt and don't look back. And then the person, I think accidentally put a thumbs down. So I don't know, maybe they were serious, they meant thumbs down. I said, really? Dislike that? So it's been a wild morning so far, but we seem to be somewhat back on track. So in your life, you have people that will tell you, and like I say, if you are of parent or grandparent age, maybe you're telling your children or grandchildren, 30 years ago, so much better. But was it? And that's what we're here to talk about today. So let's talk about how things change over time, because everything is always changing, right? And some of us like change more than others. Some of us adapt easier than others. Some of us adapt in certain ways and not other ways. But that's what we're talking about. And I think the easiest way to talk about it is to show you. See, this is a visual. Remember this? Some of you kids, you might be like, what is this happening right here? So this is a video cassette. Now, this video cassette has my father's writing on it. Super Bowl, Niners over Broncos, 128-1990. It says it right there. Now, the Niners did win that one. But this is what we used to use in order to record anything. And at the time when we were doing these things, we thought this is the way. This is how we should do it, right? How many of you remember, well, is it channel 4 or channel 3? Channel 3 or channel 4, because you had to do that. You had to turn your TV to a certain channel. You had to turn whatever to get it to record. And we thought, this is where it's at. Now, I don't know the last time any of you have watched a VHS tape, but when you first put it in, you think, well, something must be wrong with the screen because it doesn't look very nice. That was literally as nice as it got, because this is what we had. So VHS tape, these things are heavy. You could record over the top of them, but then after a while, you would start hearing or seeing the previous thing you recorded if it wasn't a high-quality tape. These are, let's see, this is like an okay quality that we had going on the On household there. But this is what we had. At that time, we thought this is what we need. And then it turned to a disc, DVDs, which now tons of us use. Some of us do. So that's one thing that changed technologically was. Now, you could be someone who doesn't adapt. You could say, you know what? No, I'm still using VHS, VCR. You go ahead and do that. Let me know how hard it is to record something now, because I don't even know how you would do it with the way TVs are. But the point is, at the time, we thought this is what we need. But now we've completely adjusted, completely transformed how we watch things that we record. Now, You need me to stop talking for a second? Keep talking? What? It does sound better, really, because it sounds echoey to me. Turn me where you need to turn me. Yes, yes? Okay. All right, now, I thank all of you for being so patient out here. This is great. Okay. So that's how you would watch something. Now, let's think about computers. When computers first started coming out, I'm lucky I grew up literally in that age where I was in grade school and we had the Apple IICs, Apple IIes just coming out. We'll get a show of hands in a second. When I went to high school, we did typing/computer. How many of you did typing in school or high school? Typing, typewriter, you did typing. Look around, young ones. You don't even know what we're talking about right now. But I was right in that transition state, right? And our family, my father was big into computers, so we had the Apple IIc. And then when the Macintosh first came out, remember what the Macintosh computers looked like? Like this, those like box, and the screen was super small. So if you have a hard time adapting, could say, no, I'm never changing. I'm staying with the old Mac. Now it wouldn't even work, right? But at the time, it was the highest level there was. If you had a Mac, it was like, ooh, that's such a new product. Like, what are we doing here? Still, that's literally 30-ish years ago, okay? Where that has gone from there to completely different to where we're at today. But yet, you still have people that go, oh, so much better 30 years ago. Really? Was that better than what we have now? Because now, internet service, right? Who remembers dial-up? Who remembers the sound and then the bong, bong, that sound, right? That's what it was, and that was the best way we had. And right now, you get upset if you click and it doesn't go in half of a second. Maybe me too, but look where we came, right? So you could be, no, I am staying with the past. Okay, absolutely, you go ahead, try dial-up, see how that works. It's not even something that you could do anymore. So once again, for people that will try to tell you, oh, it's so much better. It was good, but it's better now because of technology and changes. When I was growing up, you could watch football, big part of my life still. You could watch each week, there were a doubleheader either on CBS or NBC, your home team, whether it was the Niners or the Raiders, whoever was playing at home. There wasn't even Sunday Night Football yet, then there was Monday Night Football. You could watch the game that they showed in your area. There was nothing else to see. You couldn't really even see highlights from other games. I thought literally the biggest technological advance we had came out in like the late 80s when the show NFL Primetime came out on ESPN, because that was the first show that ever showed all the highlights from all the games. I really thought it was an out-of-body experience. It was the greatest, because now you could see highlights from all the games. Then they added to that. Then NFL Sunday Ticket came out in the 90s, and that's where you could purchase and you had the access to see all the games. Now there's what is called the Red Zone, which is on NFL Network. You can see it, and they will literally click between all the games. I still look at that, and it's the greatest thing in the world, right? Like, I remember how hard it was growing up. One game, whatever game was on, you watched. You had no idea what anybody else was doing. You couldn't even find out. So just that still excites me to know that I can watch any game I want to. I have access to see any game. But yet, I have some older people in my life that will continually tell me, oh, it's so much better. No, it was not better. It was not better to just be able to watch one game when I could see all the games now. But this is how I grew up in that time frame, 80s and 90s. So those of you that are much younger than me, you never had to go through that time. You just woke up and you could see all the games. So blessings to you. All right, now, do you remember how we used to order things? You'd get catalogs that would come in the fall. I remember we would get the Best catalog. Who remembers Best? JCPenney, Sears. You'd get catalogs, and that was how you saw, oh, I think I would like that for Christmas. That was it. You have a catalog. You're looking through that and going, oh, let's look at that. We were super excited because this is pre-internet. This is pre-anything. But besides going to the store, that was the only way to find out what there was access to anywhere else. Because otherwise, and in Tracy, there was nothing. It was you went to Stockton or you went to Modesto. When Pleasanton happened, that was like a new experience as well. Whole point being, these are all things that have changed immensely because the internet happened, right? Now, there's Amazon. Now, you can literally look whatever you want, and you might be able to get almost anything in this world in 24 hours. Almost anything, which is insane to even think about, right? But yet, someone will tell you, it was so much better back in, it was not better. Because right now, if you need toilet paper, you can get it delivered. If you need anything for your house, you can get it delivered. If you need something for a dress up for the next day for school, kids, you can get it delivered. All those things are available now. Just changes in technology over the last, actually not even 30, 20 years for that, okay? So I hope you are understanding that technology and the way things change have made us adapt, no matter whether we say we like it or not, but it's so much easier. Let's talk about music for a second. How about this? So this is a cassette tape. Okay, we're doing show and tell here today too. This is a cassette tape. Now, when I was growing up, yes, we had record players. You would get these, you would have a player in your car, you could play, if you were like, oh man, look, my car has a cassette tape player. And this is how you played music. And if you wanted to record music, you could put that in those radios and listen, and you would be listening to 104.1 or 90, I remember these, call it 96.7, and you press it, you record it, and the only way you could get like, unless you bought the album, was I recorded this song, and you'd hear the person talking, you hopefully didn't get commercials, but you'd play this, and this was literally the best quality. Cassette tape. Then we went to CD, and then we've advanced beyond that, but this was the way. Like, oh, cassette, you rewind it, A side, B side. How many of you had cassette albums? Yes, yes, many of you. Young ones, once again, this is a cassette tape. Do you
have an 8-track?
8-track was before me, but I was lucky enough that when I went to college and I was in broadcasting, we still used those cartridges. So we used those cartridges even though I never personally used them for my use, nor did I have a vehicle in our family that had those. But I know there's some of you, but I didn't want to talk about something I hadn't actually been through. You know, I didn't want to be fake with you guys there. Now, we have to talk about phones. So then the phones happen. I was going to bring mine up actually today. So phones, I remember hearing about cell phones. And you remember how big the first cell phones were, the first ones, right? They were big. Then they got to where you could type on them. You could have messages on them. I remember hearing the word smartphone initially, and I was like, well, I don't know what that means. What's a smartphone? How does that work? Because we had the internet, right? If you wanted to find directions, you could go on the internet and go to MapQuest, right? Because we used to just have maps, by the way. Young ones, I could show you a map and you'd be like, what is this? So maps, we used to have maps. Now amusement parks are literally the only places that have maps anymore. But you had maps, then we went to MapQuest. But then you had smartphones, and there were a lot of people, even me included at the beginning, that was like resisting the urge to get an iPhone, okay? Oh, no, I don't really need it. You know, what can you do on it? You hear about apps. What is an app? What does that really do? Can it really help? And this is where I go at anybody who tries to tell me they don't want to do technology. Because now, those of you that know how easy it is to actually find weather, right? Like weather, you could see literally what's it like outside right now. What's the radar showing? How is the weather right now? Rather than reading it in the newspaper, going, oh, they say in 3 days there might be some storms, but that was the last update you'd get, unless you watch the news at night. So things changed. Directions. Now there's no MapQuest. You literally punch in, and you can see your location, and it will tell you the quickest way to get there. I use this literally every day of my life to go to school, okay? I go one of two ways, and I find out in the morning when I'm in the driveway, which one am I going? So you could say, no, you know what? I'm not using that. I'd be like, fine with me, but you're going to spend a lot of extra time sitting in traffic at times, just going, wait, I'm not using tech. I'm just going to keep on going. If I can go, I'll go. But this is where we're at nowadays. Now I'm going to tell you about something very fun. It is with the phone. I don't want you to use it, but you're going to want to. It's with airports, okay? So airplanes. There are apps you can get. If you don't care about airplanes, this is not going to be super impressive to you. There's an app called, let's see, Flight Radar 24. I want to make sure I get the correct one. Flight Radar 24. You go to that app. You can literally track any plane that's in the air right now. It will tell you when it took off, when it's landing, what the call letters are. It'll have a picture of the plane. It will show you literally where the plane is at for any flight in the air right now. Not only that, it will tell you, well, the last 7 days, was this flight on time? It will say what time it got in, what time it landed, how late was it? It was 7 minutes late this day, it was 5 minutes early that day. Any flight. That's amazing. Like, that's crazy amazing. And you could do that. You can track any passenger plane that's in the air or on the ground right now in the world. In the world. Not just in Tracy, not just in the West Coast. You can go by airport, you can go by route, you can go by airline, any of those things, just with an app. Once again, someone wants to tell you, oh, it's so much better back in the day. I can't even tell you how much money my father would have paid to know that, okay? Because we were very into airplanes and things like that growing up and going to the airports and watching planes. So, technology has made us change regardless of how or what we thought about it. And some of you have changed more than others. Some of you are still resisting it a little bit here and there. You can use this for your news, of course. Whether it's literally the quickest way to do things, right? So if you tell me you got to go turn on the TV, I'll be like, hey, well, I'm just going to look at my phone right here. How about music? We talked about the cassette. When people used to come and say, hey, have you heard this album by this person? If you hadn't heard the album, you go, no, haven't heard it. Okay, and the conversation ended there because, okay, you asked me if I heard this song, I haven't heard this song. There's nothing beyond that. Because unless you had the album, unless you went and bought it from a store, or unless they happened to play the song that they were talking about on the radio while you were listening, you couldn't do it. Now, we have the ability through phones and other things to literally find any song you want at any time and listen to most of it or some of it whenever you want to. We have an Alexa at our house. How many of you have Alexa? So you'll say, Alexa, play Disney piano music. It plays Disney piano music. That's crazy. And that's something within the last 10 years. Okay? So the access to everything has changed completely. And yet, there are some people that are still staunchly trying to tell you that things were better 30 years ago. Yet if you tried to live like you did 30 years ago, it would be really, really difficult. Now, I'm sure that there's at least one or two of you in here that thought, okay, what does this have to do? Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. Because I will tell you about something that literally changed my life, which is Zoom. Zoom changed my life, okay? So Zoom, it was around before the pandemic, which we'll talk about in a second. I didn't know about it. Literally nobody knew about it. But Zoom allowed us to teach in the year that we were not in school, because most schools weren't. Our school was, some other smaller schools were. But I taught over Zoom for a full school year, right? Well, I did yoga over Zoom for a full school year. But it changed my life, right? It also allowed me to do podcast interviews that I started doing during the pandemic. Zoom, that's what happened. It also allowed something that I know Allison has talked about, having Zoom meetings with old classmates, and some of you may have done this as well, or family members around the world or around the thing. I've talked about going on a mission trip before. When the pandemic first hit, in May of 2020, we had a mission trip in 1993 to Guatemala. 40 people went on it. Somehow someone started like a group on Facebook and said, hey, you guys, should we get together and do like a Zoom or try? So in May of 2020, we got 16 people from a group of 40 that went on one 14-day mission trip 27 years ago together, which is amazing. These were people from all around the United States, all around the world. So where does that lead? Well, that leads into your religious and spiritual life. Because we spend a lot of time, and we have gotten technology here, right? We have screens now. We didn't used to have, we have headset microphones now. There was a time where if there was a screen, there were people that would have left the church because there's a screen showing. I know that might seem really wild to even think about, but that was like, oh, we couldn't have a screen in church. Now, you can't barely find a church of any denomination that doesn't have some sort of screen. We have the ability to stream. I know, pun intended, today. We're streaming. This is something that changed, right? So how did churches change? How did religious and spiritual experiences change literally in the last 5 years? When COVID took place, had it not been for technology, most people would have had zero access, and some still did, depending on where you lived, to have any sort of community with church families, with old friends. But with that, we had the ability, not just here in Tracy, you had a streaming ability, right? And initially it was just literally streaming at that time from Pastor Tyler's house, okay? We had then game nights, which I've referenced up here before, once a month during the pandemic when we weren't even having church services, once a month on Saturday nights, online games. That's how I met Yvonne Martell, okay? And it's their anniversary. And Yvonne, I hope you watch this someday. That's how I met her. I would have never talked to her here at church because I hadn't really seen her before. But that was a way that we kept community going. Some of you were there for some of these or a lot of these. And the point was, not everybody did it, but for those who did, it still gave us the opportunity to see each other, to talk to each other in a completely different environment than we probably could have ever imagined. So now we talk about church, we talk about religion, and some people say, well, you know what? Technology has ruined everything. Sure, phones can be used too much. You can have too much screen time. Anything you do too many times or too much is not good for you or your body or your mental state, right? Anything you do too much. But technology has completely changed how some people worship. Because now, today, if you are at home and you have health issues, or maybe there's something going on in your life and someone's sick, well, okay, your family stays home, but you can still watch. And you might not just watch Tracy. You might say, well, let me see what's going on with this pastor in this place. When I was growing up, and it doesn't matter what religion you were a part of at any point in your life, the only way you knew there was this different person speaking was if you were actually in the building seeing the person talking. Because you could say, oh, this pastor, he's so great. Okay, great. How am I ever going to see that person unless I go to their church, right? That's how it worked. Now you have the ability to not just watch the church service you want to, but you could watch almost any church service that has happened, except for the one I did in January. You can watch almost any church service that you want to from any point in time since they've started this. That is amazing. 5 years ago, if I told you that, you would look at me like, I've lost it. What are you talking about? What do you mean? How could you do that? Last Sabbath, we had the convocation, the Delta area convocation. Some of you were there. Some of you were here. We were at home. We watched it. It's the first convocation I've ever been to. And I've actually still never been to it, but we watched the whole thing. So here's what I'm here to tell you today is, number one, technology has changed everything. But if we spend time trying to figure out how it's made things worse, all we're going to do is find ourselves in a rut. So let's talk about how it's made things better as far as for your religious or spiritual experience. Growing up, if someone referenced a Bible text, whatever version of the Bible you had or didn't have, that was the only way you were going to see it. If I said, John 3:16, yes, whatever version you have, you're going to open it up and read John 3:16. And then I remember people saying, well, What about concordances? You'd hear the word and you go, what is that? I don't understand. Or other versions of the Bible. Now, some of you probably have these on your phone. You literally type in a text. It will give you every version of the Bible, what that text reads. Then you can type and find meanings or what the author was intended to mean. That is unbelievable. And if I told you that 10 years ago, you would have said, what is this guy? So that is something that you have such a wider range of knowledge now, right? That you can just access anytime. There are websites, well, Instagram, right? Instagram also is a big one. Some of you probably have Instagram or Facebook people you follow that give you spiritual nurturing. They might have short things they add each day, whether it's 30 seconds or a minute, that you are able to find them when you want to and say, do they have anything today? Are they saying anything today? Or it just shows up. Now, you can follow people that aren't giving you spiritual stuff as well, but the whole point being, this is a way, and this is something that has changed dramatically in the last 5 to 7 years, and it's not going away. So we sometimes fret because we don't see enough people here. We say, man, I wish that person would come back, and that's great. But what we don't know, and what we can't know, is they may be having a phenomenal spiritual, personal experience in whatever situation they are in their lives. Whether it's health that prevents them, whether it's, hey, they just feel uncomfortable or they've had an experience with different people, but they're still able to get what they need to get from whether it's online or whether it's looking at sites that are helping them. So I want us to be aware that just because people it's not 200 people every Saturday here, that doesn't mean things aren't going well still. Because some of you here, just because you're here doesn't mean it's perfect either. Now, what is the advantage of being here? What's an advantage of being here? Anybody, even young ones. What's an advantage of being here? Face to face. Person to person. Community. We reference church family. We always reference church family, okay? Because all of you here, we are all part of a church family. You are not part of my family. I am not part of your family, but we are all part of the same church family. We're all on the same team. And if you go to another church, yes, we're all overall on the same team. It's just you're more with that church's team. We're more with this church's team. We're not fighting against each other, but family, church family. So for some of you, sitting here brings you a grounding experience. I have told a couple people in the last month, being here grounds me. I spend most of my life driving an hour each way, each day, to go to Walnut Creek to be around teens of all different types and sorts, which is the greatest thing in the world. But I look forward to coming here to be grounded. It's not just for the sermon. It's not just for the music. It's literally all of the above. To see your faces, that makes me feel like, okay, I'm home. This is my church family. I have my school family. Every year I have different classes, but this remains my church family. And there are some of you sitting here who I have known for 40 or more years. So like literally we could be family, but it's a church family. Now let's talk about our breakfasts that we have. I've said this to a couple people. I really feel like it's one of the most positive things that we do, the community breakfast that we do twice a month, because it's another opportunity for people to come in a completely different setting. We're not showing up, I'm definitely not showing up in a tie on Sunday morning, but if you go there, community, family, but in a different environment, and for some people, they're comfortable there and they're not comfortable here. And there's some of you that are comfortable here that have never really gone to there. That doesn't mean anyone's doing anything wrong. It's okay. But just know that it makes a difference for the people who do go there. There are people who go there who do not have homes. There are people who go there who it might be one of the only warm meals they get a week that they aren't trying to get money to pay for or to borrow or perhaps other things for. Okay? But yet there's also us there who don't have those disadvantages, and we're all eating the same place. We're all hanging out in the same place. And so for the people who are there, that might be the most community they have. But it's a really positive thing. When we have any kind of event, whether it's a school event that comes to the church, whether it's VBS, whether it's the Jaime Jorge concert, anything that we do as a church creates community, and it might only be one or two people that it completely changes their life. But is that okay if it changes one or two people's lives? Yeah, that's okay. And when we sit here, we wish that there are families that would come back. But at this time in their lives, it might not be the right time for them. My mindset is different now with 2 children and being married than it was when I was single. Okay? That's normal. That's not abnormal. But because we have our girls now, they're used to coming to church every week. That's just how it works, right? If you're single and you don't have children coming, well, you're not thinking of other people when you make your decision. You're thinking of you, because it's just you making that decision. So every one of us are at different points. Some of us, our children have come through, they've grown up, they've been gone for a while. Now maybe we have grandchildren around. Your mindset changes as you go through life, but that's okay. But I want to let you know something about the Bible. So throughout this week, I've looked, what are the things the Bible says about the past? Okay? Most of the times the past is referenced in the Bible. There are many different times and many different situations and stories. Most of the times, you are told to don't think about the past. Focus on now and what's coming in the future. There are things in the Bible talking about, yes, you take things you learned in the past and you apply those, but do not let yourself get caught saying, oh, the old days were better. Because here's something I thought about this week. God does not care about 1988 me. Why? Because 1988 is a long time ago. Yes, he cared about me then, but right now, he could care less about 1988 me. He could care less about 1997 me. He only cares about what am I right now today. So as we go through our lives, we adapt with technology. We adapt with how we view spirituality, how we view community, how we view family. Yes, we would love for more people to be here. But we also need to understand that just because someone isn't here does not mean that they are not having a good spiritual life. In the same manner that just because we come here doesn't mean we're having a perfect spiritual life. And guess what? That's okay. That's how it's going to be. Because none of us are perfect. None of us. You might like to think that 6 out of 7 days I'm pretty good. None of us are perfect. But guess what? God doesn't care about what we were like 2 weeks ago. He cares about what are you and what are we doing now. When we're here, he cares about us right now here. Tomorrow morning, if we're at the breakfast, he cares about us, what we're doing at the breakfast. So I'm not here to tell you to say the past is bad, never talk about the past. You can talk about the past. But don't get yourself caught up saying it was so much better back then, it was so much better back then, it was so much better back then. Because no matter whether you think that or not, back then isn't coming back. I've outlined today for you literally things that have changed in the last 5 years. But you need to know we are all going to adapt whether we want to or not, because we have been already. Some of you thought you would never get a phone, and you have a phone. Some of you thought you would never get addicted to your phone. Oh, and you're addicted to your phone. Some of you thought, I'll go ahead and put Facebook on here, but I'm not going to. Uh-oh. So things change. You have to be able to adapt as we go. But in Christianity and with whatever you are dealing with in your life right now, just know it's a constant change. If we come together in 5 more years, there's going to be a lot of things that are different. I don't know what those things are going to be. I can't worry about that, right? But I can guarantee you technology is going to change in the next 5 years. I'm pretty certain saying you come down here in 5 years, you come sit here in 5 years, we may still have everything we have, but I'm betting that something will be different. So just know It's okay. Don't fear it. Have faith in one another, and know that no matter what your personal or spiritual situation is, it's always going to change, and that is just fine. So, I think you could hear me. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the sound guys up there. How about a round of applause for the sound guys up there today? We got George and Bob and Zach. And we'll do that in a second. I'll just give you a teaser for something coming up at the closing. So, thank you very much. I believe now we will have our final song.
If you'd all please stand. Oh, my mic. Thank you, technology. Thank you, Mike. Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child and forever I am. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child and forever I am. I think of my blessed Redeemer. I think of Him all the day long. I sing, for I cannot be silent. His love is the theme of my song. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child and forever I am. I know I shall see in His beauty the King in whose law I delight. With lovingly guideth my foot and guideth me songs in the night. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy, His child and forever I am.
Thank you for that. You reminded me I used to rewind the tape with a pen. It's type with a pen. I know the kids will kind of be confused, but you get a pen in there and you can kind of rewind it. Thank you, thank you. It's time for tithes and offerings, and focus is on Tracy Ministries and church budget. For the Tracy Ministry collection, we'll do it at the door. There's one that we give at the door, and I also do know that we are part of, there's also another form of support. So whatever that you have for Tracy Ministry, you can go ahead and give it. Also for our church maintenance budget, really whatever support that you choose to support, even though this is the focus, whatever that the Lord has blessed you with, that you have decided that you are giving back, we're definitely thankful for that. At this time, I will pray, and then the deacons will do the collection. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this moment. Thank you for the gifts that you've given us as we prepare to return that back to you. We pray that you can even add more blessings to it, that it can go far, far into your ministry to be able to reach all the souls that it's intended to reach. Thank you for hearing our prayer. We pray all this, believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, I gave you a little teaser. Now, one of the things was, I forgot to say this, like everything updates, okay? So this is what I want you to do in the coming weeks and months. Your phone updates, right? Different apps update. In that same way, think every time you see one of those things updating, how have I changed over the last however long this has been? Because those things will keep updating to get the best case scenario, right? To get the newest version. In that way, that's what we want to do as well. Now, the teaser wasn't for that. The teaser was because we were having sound issues earlier. And I'm not Peter, but Peter's going to come up. One thing we do for people who have birthdays is we do sing. And I mean, we had Sue tomorrow. We have Diana Monday. Monday. We have to sing happy birthday to these guys. So we're going to sing. Peter, come on up because we're going to sing to them. And we're reminding you, of course, Potluck is coming next. Potluck is run on some technology, but we're not depending on sound or picture. We just need to make sure that the ovens and everything works. But come on there. That'll be good. So we're going to sing happy birthday to Sue. Sue, raise your hand right there. Sue, that's tomorrow. Diana, Monday. So Sue and Diana, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Sue and Diana. Happy birthday to you. All right, round of applause.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So we have come to the end of the service today. We do have potluck in the Better Living Center, and also we do have a breakfast tomorrow. I am the elder on duty for the week. If you need to reach me, you can reach me through the office. I would like to hear those praises of how God has been good to you. So please, when you have one of those, please reach out to me. I want to hear that so that it can also uplift me and inspire me. And if you have also, you need prayer requests, go ahead and do the same through the church office. If you don't have the number, I'll be able to provide it to you as you exit. As we finish, my prayer to you is from Psalms. It was part of the lesson that we did, I believe it was for Tuesday, Psalms 51 and verses 10. That says that, essentially creating me a new heart. So this week, as you start, may you start with that clean heart to be able to make it through the week so that we can all be back here next Sabbath. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.